Morning. It's great to have you back in the shop with me today. It's a brisk December morning here in Southern California. We're going to do something a little different today. Should be fun. Let's get at it. Today's project should end up being the first in sort of an occasional series of things that I am going to try to make out of, well, I mean, what the heck is this, right? This little piece has an interesting story, and it may not look like much now, but this is essentially my first major woodworking project. Besides little things that I've made here and there throughout my life, this was part of a furniture set that I made roughly 22 years ago, a little over 22 years ago, right before my first son was born. And I made furniture for the baby room, right? And both my sons used this. They had the dressers and they had a crib. And then at one point the crib got converted into a bed, and then pieces of it got converted into other things. And so it's not really around anymore. But these dresser parts have hung around, and we've used them for a lot of different stuff over the years. But we don't have a use for them anymore. And you can see this one has actually sat outside under a tarp for a little bit, and it's dirty, and the inside's got a little wet at one point. So rather than just let them deteriorate, what I decided I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the solid wood off of this and start making it into things that I will then hand down to my kids that hopefully they will keep and use and have hanging around for, I don't know, I say the rest of their lives. That sounds a little overly dramatic, but hopefully it'll be something they can keep and be a memory and something they can hold on to. So let's talk about what this is. It's maple, right? Most of it's maple, but not a lot of the parts really are solid maple. So the drawer faces are, but the drawer boxes are plywood. And then most of the sides and the top of both pieces, this one and the bigger one, they're actually chipboard. They're melamine on the inside with plywood veneer on the outside. So the melamine on the inside is nice because it had clothes and stuff in it, and so it kept things sort of clean and neat. And then the maple on the outside, and it's all just finished with polyurethane. So what I'm going to try to do is take these things apart. I'm going to start with this one. I'll eventually get to the other bigger piece, and pull off the pieces that are solid maple, and the pieces that are plywood or chipboard will probably go in the bin. But these solid maple pieces, I will then use to build other things. And so the pieces of that wood that were the pieces of this furniture will turn into other things that I'll give to the kids. So for my first project, I have purchased 3 of these knife kits, and this is just straight off Amazon. If they end up being any good, I'll leave a link in the description down below the video. But the plan is to make knife scales for the handle for these knives. And I got 3 that are the same, so that I and both my sons can each have one, and sort of be the 3 of us, whole father-son thing, whatever. It's sort of a camp style knife. It comes with a little leather sheath. It shouldn't be too difficult a project. I've never made knife scales before, but like I said, this one is pretty simple. And so I'm going to start pulling off the solid walnut. I'm going to start pulling off the solid maple pieces out of this. And once I get everything off, I'll figure out which ones I want to use and clean them up and start making my knife scales. Should be a pretty quick project. Hopefully we won't run into any, I don't even want to say that. Famous last words, right? Everything's going to be fine. So first part of that job is done. I've got a number of good pieces here. I'm going to set these end pieces aside. They have a little bit of meat left on them. It's like that, trying to get that last little bit of meat off the turkey that you carved for Thanksgiving before you throw the carcass away. I can't decide if these little pieces are worth the trouble. They're probably not at this point. They're glued and they have some brad nails through them, and they're small, so it may not be worth pulling those off, but I'm gonna set them aside just in case I change my mind later. And then I still have to get the edge pieces off this top, but from there then I need to start cleaning these up. So I got to get all of these little brad nails out, clean the glue off. I'm gonna sand these to get the finish off and get down to raw wood. I've got these little pieces. These are nice little chunks. Except that they're just filled with holes from those drawer slides, so I don't know how useful they'll be. But every little bit helps, and so on to sort of the next step. Okay, so I got my little dresser broken down, and I've got a number of good project-sized pieces. I've even got a couple of nice sized boards from the drawer faces. They're all solid maple. So this stuff is good to go. And these little pieces I've got here are actually perfect for my first little project, which is to put scales on these little knife kits. So I got my first kit here. This is what the blade looks like. You know, be kind to me. I've never done knife scales before, so I'm going to sort of feel my way through it. I got some instructions here, but I'm pretty sure that that these little pieces are going to be a perfect fit for the size that I need for these scales. So I am going to resaw these thickness and then trace them out and start putting them together. Now I'm going to start by doing one. I'm going to build mine, and that way if I really mess anything up and I learn some important lessons, I can do a better job than the ones that I give to the boys. So we'll start with that. The other thing is, I think I don't want to do just plain maple on the knife scales. I want to make it a little bit more decorative. So I'm going to think about how I might put either laminate some pieces, some stripes, or I'm thinking through that. I'm going to walk through kind of that creative process as I build this first one, and you can kind of watch me do that, and we'll see where it goes. Hopefully it'll be cool. We'll see. So what I'm doing with the design on the handle is I've made these two diagonal lines with a little bit of walnut, and then I've got some brass bar that I'm going to use to actually make little dots alongside the lines. And I'm going to position the dots so that the combination of the dots and the lines make initials. And you can see I'm laying out here the dots for mine, so the two dots on either side of the first line make an S, and then 3 dots by the next line make an E, and that's my initials, Steve Eubanks, right? And so then on the other two, I'll do one that makes a Z and one that makes a J for Zach Eubanks and Josh Eubanks, and that way we'll have handles that obviously look similar and are related to each other, but are unique to each of the owners of the knife itself. So one of the things I learned about making knife scales is you have to shape this little front transition bit on the scales before you glue them onto the tang of the knife blade, or else there's really no way to do it once they're glued on without marring the blade. So did that first and then straight into the glue up. And man, this first time around with the glue up was a mess. I learned a lot about how, first of all, you should wear gloves when you use epoxy to glue knife scales onto your knife. So it was a mess, but it came together okay ultimately, and it turned out being fine. Okay, so the epoxy on my scales has set up overnight, and this is now ready to come out of the clamps and we can start shaping it and see if I can get it down to a good shape that fits my hand and that looks good, and then we'll move forward with the other two. In the meantime, let's talk about the elephant in the room. My workshop is an absolute disaster right now. And I'm going to claim that I have not had time to get out here and to clean up and put stuff away. But let's be honest, I've had plenty of time to do that. I just don't like cleaning, and so my shop is always a mess. But I'm going to say, don't judge me, because I'm doing what I love. And just because I'm doing it in a messy workshop doesn't mean that it's any less awesome. So I'm going to clean soon. Wow, this looks better already, just out of the clamps. Let's see what we can do with this little guy. Normally I wouldn't wear gloves when I'm working with a tool that spins, like the sander. But working with these knives, man, the metal pieces got so hot while I was shaping the knife handle, and kept burning my fingers. So I had to put the gloves on and just was real careful to make sure that I didn't get my hand dragged into the sander. So that's the profile done, and then next on to sanding off all those corners and making the handle just more curvy and comfortable to hold in your hand. Nothing fancy with the finish here, just several coats of True Oil to protect that beautiful maple. Give it a little bit of a shine, that's all it takes. All right, so I spent the morning cleaning up, and like I told you, I got it clean. Now, if you're looking at the background of this shot and thinking to yourself, Is that what you call a clean workshop? Well, all I have to say to you is, I hope you never see my kitchen. So with the shop clean, I'm ready to get back into my knife scales Christmas gift project. Now the first one is done, and it came out pretty good, but like I expected, I definitely learned some things from this. So one is I like my little brass dots for the design and the handle, but I put them too close to the edge, and then when I rounded over the edges, the brass dots ended up in the rounded over part. So in the other two that I make, I'm going to pull those edge dots in closer to the center of the handle, and I think that should be fine. I also, because I had that one dot close to the edge, I got a little bit of chip out. I think I can avoid that by having those dots not as close to the edge. Other than that, it feels pretty good in the hand. It fits great into the little sheath dealy whopper. So yeah, that's good to go. So the next step is to get these other two kits out of their packages and build 2 more sets of scales as Christmas gifts for my boys. So the knives are done, and I'm really pleased with how they came out. So these are the 2 for Zach and Josh, and I'll get some close-ups there. You can see how I used the little accent lines and the little brass rod to put their initials into the handles of the knives, and my initials are in mine. You can definitely see where I learned some things from making mine first, and I fixed those things in the ones for Zach and Josh, bringing the outside dots of the brass bar a little closer in so they didn't get stuck in the curve of the handle. The only decision I have left to make is whether I want to do anything with the leather on these little sheaths, if I want to dye that. I don't have to. It's great. So part of me says, oh, well, the light color of the sheath matches the light color of the handle, which is great. There's another part of me that would love to do these a little darker, so there's a little bit of contrast there. I don't know. I have 3 days till Christmas. today's Monday. I have 4 days till Christmas. So I have a little bit of time to still try to get that done. We'll see. We'll see. I also have some other projects in the works. I got the John Foreman ukulele still working. Zach's desk, we still need to get out here and work on some. But in the meantime, really happy with the way these came out. Hope the boys love them and keep them for the rest of their lives as just a little reminder that these handles are made from the pieces of their furniture that they had when they were born. And maybe it's only important to me as a dad, and maybe they'll be like, yeah, whatever, Dad. But I don't think so. I think they'll like it. In the meantime, happy holidays to you, whatever holiday it is that you celebrate this time of year. I hope you have great time with family and friends and just get a chance to celebrate and really enjoy the end of 2020 as we look forward to 2021. And I hope you have a chance to get out there, do what you love, and I'll see you next time.